Gambia's Minister of Youth and Sports, in an interview with a local-based TV station, Start TV, has debunked claims that the Gambia Football Federation used to fund the teams, saying that it is the government who usually fund the country's national teams. Now, last year, in a leaked document published by Eyeafrica, of which is believed to be the Gambia Football Federation estimated cost for both home and return leg matches for the Scorpions 2022 World Cup preliminary matches against the Blancas Negras of Angola, estimated over $15 million, was addressed to the sports minister for consideration. The newly appointed minister coming at this time to clear the air on who fund the Gambia national football team has sparked some debate within the football fraternity. Let's take a listen to the minister on this in his own words.
Man lima xam ak lima receive si handing over dafa uteek yow li nga wax parce que as far as lima fi ñu fekk mooy national teams yëpp government ñoo ko sponsor. Government ñooy fay seen tickets yi ñooy fay seen accommodation ñooy fay lépp li nga xam ne luy dem ci wàllum football la ci biir réew mi fii ak su teams yi di génn ci biti loolu moo fi nekk. non waaye yenn yi xëy na mu am façon yooyu noonu nga xam ne xëy na dañ war a jënd ticket mais bi government amuñ xaalis at the time ñuy wax GFF bi ñu finance ko ba dañ leen dee delloo seen xaalis su government subvention bi ñëwee so as far as fii fi mu nekk nii right now. According to Luma PS bi wax ministry bi amee luñ xaalis GFF waaye most of the matches government ñoo dee fay everything ñooy fay seen tickets yi even seen Portugal game bi nii sax the same thing la I mean seen test match bi ñoo def nii in Portugal right now loolu la ñu ngi waajal Gabon in November loolu yi tamit already gaa ngi work liggéey ak ñoom through the PS pour gis ne government dugal nañ xaalis ci yëfi ticket so government ñoo dee fay du nekk loo xam ne nii lu jaar yoon la pour nit wax ne GFF ñoo dee sponsor all of those things no government ñoo ko dee fay ñoo dee fay tickets ñoo dee fay everything loo xam ne lu jëm ci wàllum football teams yi ak seen participation both
jërëjëf mu ngi noonu kooku mooy di Minister of Youth and Sports ministre bu gàllo wàllu ndaw yi ak tàggat yaram moom moo doon leeral noonu di leeral ci li ñoo wax ne Gambia Football Federation ñoom ñooy dépense national teams yi moom nag daal dina weddi claims yooyu mu ne nee na loolu yëf yi demewut noonu nguur gi ñoom ñooy daal di yore dépense bi di fond national team bi mu ngi doon joxe ay references and loolu nag tax na coow li bari ci diggante ndax noonu la demee am déet loolu xam naa yéen mun ngeen cee am seen jàngat waaye tamit am na gan ki nga xamante ne ñu dimbale ci lu yaatu ñu waxtaan ci loolu yëf yi naka la war a mun a demee ndax yàgg na si sports te jiite na sports su ma leen ko wonee léegi nii rek da ngeen xam kan la now that was the newly appointed Youth and Sports Minister there, clarifying on that, of course, with regards to the funding of the national Gambia's football national team. Of course, many, of course, as you heard there, it has been said that it's the Gambia Football Federation that, in most cases, normally that funds the, the national team participation in both home and international matches. And of course, but he have refuted those claims, saying no, government would always do what it's supposed to do because the government owns national teams. I think that's an open secret. And that being the case, and as the newly appointed minister, he said, no, I mean, GFF is not funding, and of course, they have been taking full responsibility of that. Now, of course, I am glad to say joining us to digest all this and others, and of course to take us through on the matter. I'm glad to say I'm being joined by the former chairman of the National Sports Council, Mr. Bori Dabo. Mr. Dabo, thank you very much for joining us this morning so we can talk about this and other related matters in Gambian sports, football in particular. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. Just allow me to say hi to our listeners.
Yeah, morning. I'm glad to be here. And I thank you very much for welcoming me to the studio.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like I said, if you are just joining us, he is the former chairman of the National Sports Council. And of course, he would help us to digest or to go through all these issues because there are controversies around. Mr. Dabo, thank you again. Like I said, you heard from the minister there trying to clarify and refute claims as highlighted in the report, and it has been a hot debate, especially in social media, who do what, who fund the national football teams, especially in recent years. Now, you have been at the National Sport Council responsible to some of these matters. What can you tell us about this whole issue? How does it work, especially when you were there at the time?
Thank you very much. Well, surprisingly, you have to hook me out to be here this morning.
Absolutely.
It's unfortunate, but then as a citizen, and also somebody who sees himself as part of sports, I think it's also welcoming that I also be on board to shed light on anything that I know or may have come across, even before or during my time. So what the minister said, actually, it is right.
Yes, you.
Sorry for that.
Yeah. Okay. We will.
Yes. Whilst I was coming in, I had the response from the minister about who funds the national team. Well, basically, all over the world, we know the national teams the government are responsible for everything that encompasses the national team. And he is right. The government is responsible for the national team and not the GFF.
Yeah, but there's been this claim that GFF is doing much of the bulk in funding the national team. Of course, he said that GFF sometimes would chip in and fund in case the ministry or government cannot provide money, so they needed monies at the right time, and then GFF can chip in and do the payments, and later on they will be refunded. At your time, and of course you have been there as the chairman of the National Sport Council between national associations and the government. Now, how normally these things work? And you say the minister is right, government do pay. Is it right that GFF entirely sometimes are responsible for funding the national team, or at every needed time or given time when necessary the government would do what is expected from them as government, of course, like you said, government or national teams?
As alluded by the minister, when I was there, in fact this was when newly the coalition government came into place. I know the GFF would pre-finance the activities of the national teams, and if government did not have fund at that immediate time, what they do is they pre-finance all the activities of the national teams. Either is the under 17, the under 20, the senior team. They would pre-finance, because what happened annually, FIFA will provide $200,000 for the upkeep of the national teams. So in the event government did not put in money at the time, because that $200,000 is for national teams' participation in CAF and FIFA activities. So obviously, GFF would pre-finance those activities. Then in the event that the government get the funds, they refund back to the GFF. So that's why he said it's the government that sponsored, not GFF. GFF could pre-finance, but at the end of the day, when they claim, the government pays back. Yeah. And I think recently, if I could get it right, $29 million have been paid back to GFF, because they have claimed all the backlog of what has not been paid. So I think $29 million have been paid by government to GFF for all national team activities on the claims that they have made to the government. So obviously, even that alone tells everybody that it's the government that caters for national teams' participation.
All right, interesting. I think this is a good clarification, because there has been always this debate who funds national team, or government is not doing what is expected.
The whole thing is our sport has been very steady, and then people do not want to come out plainly to tell the truth. People will always hide behind shadows, one way or the other, trying to do things that are not correct.
If you say people, what exactly?
Because the Sports Council is there. The Sports Council is the main body that promotes sports, that would be able to take care of every sporting activity in the country,
and regulate
regulate it, monitor and then promote. But you see, sports councils sometimes are parked at the corner.
By the
when I was there, GFF were doing a lot of things that were not in line with the National Sports Council policies. Because sports council will be bypassed, and then they'll be dealing their activities with the ministry directly, which was, we don't say don't go to the ministry, but have a channel where you pass all your your request or whatever you need, Sports Council should be in the picture so that they know, and then they will be able to talk on your behalf so that all those things are put into proper perspective.
Why do you think that was the case? Is it because you were there at the time and probably you didn't have a good rapport with the GFF or what? Because, I mean, if they are bypassing you and directly dealing with the minister, something somewhere might have gone wrong.
Yeah, you know, my tenure was a little bit controversial because when I was appointed, you know, they were saying Bori has just come for witch hunting. Which hunting was that?
Okay.
You know, all we want to see is our sports bodies are properly administered. There is transparency. Because look, it's the athletes that sweat for the nation. So if funds come in, those funds must be properly utilized. And the Sports Council should know where those funds are going. Because even if you are traveling, one member of the Sports Council, either from the Secretariat or a board member, should accompany the national teams.
Yes.
And up to the time I left, I'm not saying hardly, they hardly even travel with Sports Council. They do, but hardly during my tenure. And I don't know whether it's the same thing up till now, I don't know.
Okay.
You see, because Sports Council has all the responsibilities to make sure that our sports is being regulated, and that any program that is brought up, they should be able to look at it and be able to address and advise the ministry.
Okay, that's very interesting. And before we, of course, I want us to widely discuss in that area and the role of the National Sport Council with National Association, especially with the GFF, which we are trying to explain during your time, the relations with the GFF, and I'll get it. But first, you mentioned about the 200,000 coming from FIFA to help upkeep national teams. And again, government also is expected to
that's why I said there's no transparency. The national team is a government's responsibility. You know, now FIFA would also chip in $200,000 annually for participation of the national team in FIFA games and then CAF games.
Means to
exactly either
to support
or to support their registration and I think even their flights or accommodation, because FIFA want to see every nation participate in their activities, because they know at times government will have some bottlenecks. So and that's why FIFA is doing this, so that no national team would say we are not able to participate because we could not get money from our government. So FIFA brings in this amount to support national teams' participation.
But what we know sometimes,
sometimes
what we do here is GFF, you know, are taking monies that are meant for other purposes. Supposedly they should not fund national teams, but there are monies from FIFA and they are meant for other purposes to develop football, and they have to take those monies and spend on the national teams instead of using it in the design, of course, or the targeted area of football development. What did you make of that? Now you are telling us there is 200,000 coming from FIFA.
That's what I'm saying. I said there is no transparency. It seems everything is confused. Because if they're saying government is not funding the national team, which obviously everybody knows that's not fact. Those are just baseless. Because if you pre-finance the activities of the national teams.
But does really government own up the national teams? That's what people are saying also.
They own, whether they own
up the national teams, doing what is expected, you know. Because for example, when we see in Gambian case, sometimes you feel like it is it's the
notion that the GFF has put in the minds of the Gambian people.
Oh, really?
Because of a lot of politics that is involved in sports. This is the problem. A lot of politics is involved in our sports. Because if you hit one sector, they have to have a way out where they will go and then hide behind. And instead of telling the people the real truth, they will not. How much money is FIFA sending annually? Every cycle. Previously, I could say from, is it Sidi Kinte or Gabi Sose, if I get it right, FIFA would send like 250,000. But as of now, FIFA sends every cycle $5 million US.
Yeah.
You see, and that is for sports development funds, for infrastructure, and for national teams. That $5 million should be able to take care of that. This $5 million that is coming annually, that's for national team or for development funds. They have to look and then develop our sports. They also have to build infrastructure. like Mauritania is doing, like Senegal is doing. From that FIFA fund, they will try to build infrastructures that sport entities would be able to use. And
but then again,
and then for
as
the national,
you may know,
I'm coming, and for national team. Now again, you have $200,000 given by FIFA for national team participation in both FIFA and CAF activities. Again, government funds in, because if you spend in, now, if, for instance, if you have this 200,000, that is for participation. They have to. That's why I said everything needs to be cleared, so that the people's mindset would know, yes, this 200,000 is for this. This government fund is for that.
When you were there, does government know that this 200,000 was coming purposely to upkeep to support national teams? And if yes, how does that use normally help?
Well, GFF will always parade themselves as, like its own is an independent institution.
That again, because they are not funded,
that should not be audited by government, because government is not giving the fund. Government is giving the fund because government owns the national teams.
Yeah, but
wherever government puts in, even if it's a single dollar, the government should be able to probe into their activities.
Yeah, but
each time you want to do that,
FIFA is no government interference in.
Look,
in
that non-interference, people are always talking about that. You can interfere, and then as long as you have the facts, you move and put those facts in front of FIFA. If they want, let them come with their independent, and they do that. Normally, FIFA would do. They would send independent monitors or people who will come investigate on the ground without even the sporting body knowing it. And then when their findings are done, they go back to Zurich, and then they'll be able to analyze what they have found on the ground, and then they decide. You could even be suspended for 2 years. But when FIFA established that, actually what the government did was right. FIFA will quickly, if we have seen it here in Mali, Mali was suspended within a period of 2 weeks. You see, I think, I don't know if Jammeh Bojang is around, whether he's in the Gambia right now or not. At least maybe you can invite him. He will tell you, Jammeh Bojang was one of those guys that were assigned by CAF and FIFA to look into why Mali was suspended. Yeah. And then within 2 weeks, they reversed it because they know what the government did was right. There was a lot of corruption, and then the funds were not being properly utilized.
Yeah, but these monies are coming from FIFA, as you just mentioned. But then again, every year in, year out, GFF are cleared and are approved by FIFA, saying they are doing a very good job. We are giving you money, and accountability is on top. And this is what we expect from you. And anytime GFF demand anything from FIFA, they are approved.
That is very simple to help you. You give me the funds.
Yes.
You are there. Yes, you may send in auditors, but let's say I'm giving $5 million to spend in 4 years. Now, we have stakeholders here. Go around and ask the stakeholders, how much are they benefiting from GFF? Are their parks being taken care of?
Yeah, but GFF don't own parks also.
I'm coming.
Yeah.
But this is for infrastructure. So if they don't own, from the FIFA fund, every 4 years, they should be able to do something.
Yeah, recently we have seen projects are going on.
They should be able to come up with parks of their own. Senegal is doing it. Mauritania is doing it. Even a TV station, Mauritania. From the FIFA fund, because it's for development. We can do the same. But it's not been done. If you say, yes, we have been audited, you have the funds, you have your pen and paper, you start writing down this amount is given to Eyeafrica for publicity and whatever. You just write down up to the point that you reach there, you are able to fix that $5 million.
Whether it happens or
not. Whether it happens or not, you provide the fund. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but probably that's what is happening, because there's nothing transparent.
But is that not allegation?
It's not allegation. There's no allegation in it.
You were one time a member of the GFF.
There's no allegation. Remember when I went in, GFF, look, there are documents. I don't know, because you called me, I was rushing, so I do not. When I came in and then we trying to look at what GFF have done from FIFA fund, a building that was built by during CD Kinder's time, that is the gold project. Now the gold project is been renovated by $40 million, is more than how the amount it was built. A toilet was built for $1.5 million. You believe that? 33,000 US.
Yeah, but
so if you collate all those things and send to FIFA on the paper, this is what we have done.
That's not. You are saying that's not justifiable.
That's not justifiable. Where in this world, even the Queen's toilet, you cannot build it for 33,000 US.
Okay.
You can't.
So, I mean, again, you have brought here a long-time issue of which I think many of the followers would know.
So,
but then again,
so before you move in, to clarify,
yeah.
Government owns the national teams.
Yes.
And government provides funds. In the event they are not able to provide funds at the material time when it's been requested, GFF pre-finance. When they pre-finance the activities, they would send into government how much money they have spent on registration or on air tickets, on accommodation, on allowances paid to players and then the members of the delegation, and they would request this from government. And government in turn would pay back to GFF. So no money is lost on their side as well, because that means government owns. So that the minister is right to say government funds.
Yeah.
Because if you pre-finance, that means putting money before you get your money, before government comes in. So if you do that and government refunds, then who is financing?
Yeah, exactly. Now again, still on the figures, by the way, in most cases also
and
in
recently,
Gambian
as
context,
I said, $29 million has been refunded to GFF by government. Find that out. But I had it clearly, and that guy would never deceive me.
$29
million, yes.
Yeah. But then, that's also not much somehow in
yes,
football.
but that is the claim they have done.
Yeah.
If you say this is what you have spent over the years,
yeah.
and that government have not put in, and now government decided that, okay, I think it's right, it is our baby, this is our own responsibility, we own it to ourselves, then we have to pay. Then they decided to pay. Okay. So you cannot turn around and say, no, government is not funding the national team.
Yeah, but in most cases, in fact, it probably is not an official statement from the GFF also, it's good we say that, but people, Gambians, somehow, in many cases might feel that government is not doing what is expected in time, because you see Gambians in time, even we are playing friendly matches, we have ticketing problems, of which I think government should have played a role. But then again, coming back to the figures, the money that has been involved, which have been the issue here. At your time, when you receive a request from the GFF, because many times people will think that sporting officials or associations, I should say, the demand, the figures that they put on paper, many Gambians, when they saw the cost, they found this is unjustifiable. How do you normally deal with those issues before you get to the ministry? It's because we have seen a document, a leaked document, as I highlight in the story from GFF, where you can see, I mean, for example, a person would say, I mean, I don't know how some of these things are highlighted in the document. The cost that I mean, I just wanted to specifically mention a thing or two, but then I don't think I should. But then, at your time when you were there, how do you normally assess, or process the demand? Because like I said, many things the cost sometimes are just is unjustifiable. How does it work before it gets to the minister?
What
before
happens
government
here,
will sit on it and then reform
that's why I said, in fact, what happens is when national associations, whether it's football or whether it's athletics or is volleyball or is basket or is wrestling, now when they are about to have events, they will write to the ministry through the National Sports Council that they're going to participate in events so and so at time so and so, and then they would put in a requested amount. Now, if it is going to be home-based, feeding and so on, would be made. If it is outside the Gambia, they will also put in all the amount required for accommodation, for logistic, because going for training in and out, and then Sports Council will look at the document that they have sent. And now the Sports Council, the executive director, would look at it, and then the board also, or on behalf of the board, will look at what they have requested for, and now that document will be minuted to say that sports association so and so engage in a particular event, either home or outside, and this is the fund required, and that would be sent to the ministry. They will request on behalf of the sporting association that requested that fund. Sports Council will now minute to the ministry because funds to the Sports Council are being subvented by the ministry. So Sports Council cannot fund the activities of the sporting association. All we do is send the document to the Ministry of Sports to look into those requests of the various sporting associations for immediate action. So if the ministry decides, they'll have their technical team, they will sit over it, and probably the executive director will be involved on behalf of the council, and because he would have to report to the board. And then, you know, they would say, okay, this is what they have asked for, but
normally, do you normally have issues on the figures, you know, that are brought before you for consideration before it will get to the highest to the ministry in terms of the demand, let's say the allowances and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we would, of course, sometimes some figures are astronomical, and looking at what you have or what you are even being subvented for that month, like say Sports Council, sometimes you have about 200,000 for a month. You know, you're looking at staff salaries and other operational costs. You know, as an entity, they cannot handle that. So if you come with a budget of, let's say, 500,000, that is referred to the government, to the ministry, or to the government through the Ministry of Sports, to make sure that the funds are made available. So it's the ministry's responsibility now to determine how much should be given to the sporting association, and not the Sport Council.
If the National Sport Council is subventing, let's say, 200,000 in a month, again, government's responsibility in sports, the budget, national budget allocation to youth and sport alone is somehow questionable, Mr. Davo. Don't you think so?
Yeah, that's why maybe I thought that may come last.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why Sports Council took the initiative to write to government for a sport levy.
Yes.
If you could remember.
Yeah, indeed.
And you know, it was our baby. Marcel and the team and the board, we sat over this. We said, look, in order to fund our sporting associations or activities, we need to have fun. And that's why you have Sports Council, for development, for promotion, and for regulation.
Yeah.
And all those things cannot be attained if there are not sufficient funds. So looking at that, we said, with the secretariat, I think we need to come up with a strategy that, when adopted, could help alleviate some of those burning issues that come in and out. So if we have the funds at our disposal, we will be able to take care of their request. Instead of every time, we could attend to their request and then notify the ministry that this is what we have disbursed to association A, B, C, and D.
Okay.
And remember, when this was done, we made a lot of follow-up until finally government accepted it. Now this sports fund has started, and Sports Council has no control over it. We don't even know how the money is being spent.
And you wanted to have control over the money?
Well, this is our idea. The idea, yes.
But why all of a sudden the change?
Well, the ministry has to answer to that, because I remember when there was a question in Parliament, when they asked the finance asked the ministry, because I think finance finally transferred everything to Ministry of Sports. And I think when Hadrami came in, you know, he mixed up everything.
But before Hadrami was, how I mean, again, I'm forgetting the first sports minister who promised that entirely he's going to transform Gambian sport from where it was to 100%. It was, is it Gomez? You know, of course, I think it's Gomez, if I'm right. She was the first, sport minister. So I think probably, what do you think of his tenure also? Because we are talking about Hadrami, but Hadrami succeeded someone else before he came in.
Yes, Henry came with all his failings, or whatever you may call him.
Yeah.
But he has a bold idea that he wants. But remember, that was the time he brought me in as a chairperson of the Sports Council.
Yeah.
And Henry's time, obviously, was very challenging, because left and right, as a minister, he's been challenged from all angles. From all angles. So the vision he has, and that he wants to implement, he cannot attain it. Because you need to have the people around that share the same vision, so that we'll be able to save our sports.
Okay.
And then those challenges are there, and they could not be attained. We've called for, we've tried so that we'll have a national sports forum where all stakeholders would come on board. You ask Marcel, I wish you invite him. He would be able to dilate all those things.
Okay, you were talking about Hadrami, that he's the problem you're trying to say?
Look, what I'm saying here, when the sport, because it was approved in his time.
Yeah.
So obviously, now when this amount was, that is the GSM contribution to sports. I think when you call every 50 bottles goes to sports,
which
sports
was
fund.
widely embraced by the sports.
Like anytime you buy a SIM card, know that 50 bottles is being deducted. That is to take care of our sporting activities. So now funds should be managed. Now the owner of the idea is being sidelined completely. That's the Sports Council. So it's like Sports Council is there as a name. all its functions are not being properly done. Because whatever they even request, hardly they get it. Hardly. They have to be following it up, day in, day out.
And this is because?
The ministry wants to control everything. Okay. And then, of recent, they have spent over $43 million from that sports fund. The Sports Council not even aware of that.
Okay, interesting. I know there are a lot of issues that we should discuss on all this more, and of course the time that we have would not allow us to do all that. But then moving on, we have a new sports minister, a young man for that matter, and of course there are a lot of expectations. I don't know whether you know him or not, but then the youths have welcomed his appointment as the new sports minister.
Yeah, before we go into that, let me clarify here.
Okay.
Because like associations, as I said earlier, their first channel of report is the Sports Council.
Yeah.
In whatever form, from GFF, it should be through the Sports Council. And up to the time I was there, and I believe even now, maybe up to the day this man was appointed, you see, not all the sporting associations, but most sporting associations will bypass the Sports Council and channel through the ministry. So the Sports Council, both the board members and the executive, the secretariat, sorry, would just be receiving directives when they were not even engaged. That was wrong. Hadrame condoned it, and when we challenged, Marcel, through the board, sent letters upon letters, because through board meetings we've raised this concern that the sporting associations, whatever form they are, whatever issues they have, whatever they need, requirements, should be channeled to the Sports Council. And the Sports Council, as the advisory body to the government, should now take up that responsibility to engage the Ministry of Youth and Sport to address those issues. I'm coming. And then, you know what happened?
I just wanted to say, you said most of the associations, maybe deal directly to the ministry, but
GFF will always bypass.
This is what I'm saying now.
I'm coming.
Okay.
And the person who made that possible is the former minister, Hadrame. This is the letter of the 29th of May. Concern. And he blasted the Sports Council. If you allow me to read, I will read.
Yeah, you can just give us some of it.
He said, needless to lecture. He said, needless for the Sports Council to lecture on the roles and responsibilities of the council towards the national associations or federation. The ministry is responsible for all strategic direction and can deal directly or indirectly with any stakeholder in sports.
This was the response from the ministry.
Yeah, it's a long thing.
Which you think did not...
That was wrong. In all its aspects, it was wrong. And they were dealing directly with the ministry. GFF traveling with the ministry. Hardly you have any Sports Council member or board member moving with them.
Yeah, but this whole thing came after, I think, when you were in a deadlock with the GFF at the time. You were the chairman and...
This was not during the deadlock, because when I hand over everything to the police, we did an investigation. The police did an investigation, and they've established that what I said was right. In fact, we engaged the National Assembly. The National Assembly asked the police to investigate. The police investigated. They have their findings, and they advised us to take action. If I say take action and I decided to suspend, is that not an action? It's the same on even the National Assembly. To come around to tell the National Sports Council now, they did not say that. When you advise, take necessary actions. After the investigation revealing that...
Do you see that as a politic was playing in this case or what?
Come on. That's what I told you. This politics is destroying our sports. Good people who even want to chip in the sports are taking a backseat.
Yeah, but many
veterans are in this country. Yeah. Look at Biri. We're celebrating. May God give him Jannah for 1,000. We celebrated when he died. When that guy should have been celebrated, giving that honor, not just mere thing going to give him a certificate at a banquet or what. No.
That was the late Biri.
Yeah.
Okay, I know. Like I said, I of course have I have many follow-up questions to what he's just talking about, but time wouldn't allow us. I just want us to talk on the newly appointed minister What do you think he should be his new direction in a bid to avert or to bring sanity in Gambian sport? Because there are a lot of divisions, as you may know, the brouhaha and all that, as many would call it, in Gambian sports. What are your expectations? Do you think he is the right man to get us to the dreamland?
Well, I think if I know Bakari, if I say I know him very well, I'll be lying. Or if I say I don't know him also, I will be lying. Yeah. And it's not need for me to say that. But I know he's a very astute person. He's committed to his responsibilities. He's a youth person. And I know the role given to him is very, very enormous. It's so gigantic. And I believe he's a focused man, I believe. And I believe he's also up to the task. And even prior to this, he should be able to affair himself with youth matters, especially sports. Yeah. So nobody can inform him what should be or what should not be. My advice to him would be he has to be very bold. He has to be very, very bold, and he must not take those niceties. Because there will be so many people coming around him, A, B, C, D, and they'll be so deceiving. Because here, everybody has an agenda. And you want...
In Gambian sports?
Yes, in Gambian sports. You want your agenda, you want to see your agenda fulfilled or followed. And then if he wants to follow those things, he will miss the whole point.
Do you think he could be that different minister that can bring us success and or help us to
well, he can definitely be. He need to be engaging. He need to be interacting with people, involved, and let it be participatory. Let it be participatory, involve stakeholders, try to diagnose what are the ills in our sports, and to be able to diagnose those things quickly, and address it as soon as possible. Right. Because otherwise, if it drags on, he will miss whatever assignment or whatever he may come up with. Because I know he has a vision. The vision is to revolutionize our sports, especially our sport administration. Our sport administration is poor. There's no transparency in our sport administration.
Yeah, you talk about transparency, but how do you think he could go about this? And you have been into the sports matters or issues for quite a long while. What are some of the most challenging issues that he can't just afford to regularize in this case? And if Gambian sport have to be on the right footing, that you think is the main constraint or hindrances in Gambian sports?
To make things easier for him, Sports Council must be given their full responsibility. That's the body. That is main advisory body.
And again, just to say the National Sports Council was established by an act of parliament.
An act of parliament. So Sports Council must be given its responsibilities. Okay. It must be seen to be functioning.
Not only by name.
Not by name. But Sports Council today is by name. Look, we may all have different ideas about the players at the Sports Council or the Secretariat. But I can tell you, there are good guys within the Secretariat. Excellent boys. Okay. Sports Council is full of people that really know our sports. But even at that level, because of this politics, you see, all our regional chairmen are being sidelined. Any sporting activities happening, most of them, hardly they are involved. If it is not Sports Council related activity, even GFF, they sideline all those guys. They have what they call football association, and this football association should be monitored by the Sports Council, Regional Sports Council. And those people, they don't even care about those Regional Sports Council chairmen or presidents. Okay. They don't. Okay. Because they see they are on the GFF, so they are not answering to any other person but to GFF.
Okay.
Any activity, even if it is football or whatever, they still don't count them. They always count them out.
Which you think is not the right thing
It's completely wrong.
Okay. Then the minister is expected to support
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said he need to support Sports Council, because Sports Council is a body that is completely ignored. No adequate funding, and now they ask for we initiated this sports levy. It is approved. Millions are lying down there. Now the Hadrami is using that money for other aspects. We say Sports Council for sports. Yeah. Now he's using that for youth development. He's using it for other activities.
Yeah. I'm coming.
No, I would have to say this because he did a lot of damage. He did a lot of damage. This letter alone is giving the other sporting councils to ignore a body that is enacted by the National Assembly.
Yeah, but then...
That's why Sports Council is being disrespected. That honor has to be restored. Their responsibilities has to be restored. And they are not even provided with logistics. How can they even cover the whole country? All our regional chairmen, not a single person has a vehicle to monitor his region. How can we develop? Go to other areas. Ask Musa Mende. I have great respect for that guy. He once told me, Mr. Dabo, we call Rwanda, is it Rwanda or Botswana? Yeah. They came and learned from the Gambia, and they went and developed their sports council. You see there, every sector within the sports council or every position has a division that he's managing. And they learned it from us here.
Okay. Interesting. And I think the Honorable Minister, the newly appointed Minister, I think have a big thing that awaits. But, you know, Gambians are hopeful. Young people are hopeful. The sport fraternity equally are very well hopeful. And finally, of course, on your final note, of course, you have already given some of your advices to the newly appointed minister. And I would just ask finally over the...
In fact, interesting, before you come to finally,
yeah.
You know, this was when, in March 2018, just remember, you are the support body to the Sports Council. You subvent fund Sports Council. Now, ministry under Hadrame, taking a loan from Sports Council of $600,000 and up to today, it's not paid.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You have...
It's so pathetic.
These are on record?
It's on record. Go to Marshall, unless they pay it today. But up to the time I left, up to yesterday, that amount is not refunded. $600,000. So how do we expect Sports Council, when a fund that they should be able to control, that is their brainchild, the sports levy, they toil for it, and the board gave them the approval, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And now, even if you don't control the full, but be part of its management, so that you know how much is coming out and where is it going.
Okay.
But as of today, you know, the dreams of our athletes, our sporting bodies are dead, because that sport fund that is meant to help them, they don't even have an idea how it is being utilized. 43 million is already spent out.
You know, we'll hope to bring you back, of course, some other day, so we can widely continue this discussion. And equally, our doors are very much open for better discussions in what should take Gambian sports forward, because we need to move on as a country in all aspects, in all sectors. It has been far too long that we have been, so stagnant in many sectors. But Mr. Dabo, I know we have definitely so many issues to talk on this and other matters also, because of course I wanted you to give us, just in a minute, what is your final assessment in Gambian sport overall? I mean, not only football, over the past years, let's say since the new advent of the new government, how do you think we have done, in your view? Just finally, in a minute.
Well, I believe we are progressing when it comes to the athletes, because, like, if you can take example of Guinea-Bars, the volleyball, the achievements they are making, you see, you have that passion with the athletes, and likewise the fans. But when it comes to the final thing, the administration is completely out of the blue, because there is no transparency.
But the future is bright.
The future is bright, but the administration must do things right.
Thank you very much.
You know, that way we'll be able to get our athletes to participate fully, because whatever is due them, they'll be able to have it.
Thank you very much.
So we must be transparent, and we must take it seriously. Government must take it seriously, and the Sports Council must be equipped. All the regional offices must be equipped. If government really wants to achieve, look, from 2015, the sport policy, what have we achieved? 2015 to 2019, nothing meaningful has been achieved.
All right. Thank you. These are all things that we need to...
Do we have to continue like that as a sporting nation?
Yeah.
No.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Bori Dabo has been our guest in this morning's Good Morning Africa program. But like I said, we will continue the discussion some other time. But for now, thank you very much, Mr. Dabo, and it was good to have you on this platform.